Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you may be in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to kickstart our next Flutter event here today. But before we get started, I want to just quickly plug some amazing events which are upcoming either later today, tonight, tomorrow, or this weekend. You saw a sneak peek of some of these videos right before we went live, but let me give you some more detail on them. So tonight we actually have a prep event for one of our upcoming Cloud Hero games. This prep event is going to take place tonight, right after this Flutter event ends on this channel. So if you have not already, like and subscribe, and stick around after this event ends to join our preparation event for Cloud Hero, which is a hands-on opportunity for you to use Quick Labs and learn how to incorporate BigQuery data usage into your new skill set. So if you have not used big data before, GCP console, SQL, or SQL, this prep event directly after this event is just for you. So we would love for you to stop by. The second event you saw on this preview is a new speaker series called Between the Brackets, if you will, right? This is going to be hosted by myself, Madhusha Kore, and Kyle Paul from the Developer Student Club Community Manager team. This Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we're actually going to be discussing navigating the tech path. We're going to talk about our journey to getting to our current careers and how you might be able to make advantage of your current place in either education or wherever you would like to go in the next couple of months or years. So please join us. In the YouTube chat, I will drop the RSVP links for both of these events. Please feel free to share them with all of your social media networks. We would love for each and every one of you to join us. And again, finally, just a reminder, the actual Cloud Hero event is going to be hosted this weekend. It's going to be a 2-day event where we actually walk you through all of the labs and learnings in a hands-on environment. So whether you have any previous knowledge of the Google Cloud Platform, SQL, or not, you are welcome to join us. However, here's the thing. This event is limited to the first 500 students who RSVP and sign up. So please, if you have not yet, RSVP and make sure to join on time so we can provide you this amazing training. All right. With that being said,
By the way, Danny, how do we RSVP?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Madhusha. Thank you for letting me know. So number one, if you have not, you should definitely navigate to our DSC community website, the dsc.community.dev. I will drop that in the chat for y'all on YouTube. From there, you're going to want to search for your local DSC chapter and RSVP to their event page. Once you RSVP, a blue join event button will appear. You can also find all of this information on our Discord channel, which we will be posting here in just a moment. For those who have already joined our Discord channel, you can absolutely see this information getting launched on the announcements tab when it comes out. For those who may not have joined, click the link in the description or type in bit.ly /DISCTOTV. Make sure when you join the Discord channel, you click the green check mark in the rules to gain access to the remainder of the server. So please make sure to RSVP, right? Make sure to share this event with your friends. And without further ado, I'm really excited to learn more about Flutter. So Rohan, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Perfect. Thanks for the amazing introduction, Danny. This is pretty amazing. Just like last week, this week we're again going to start with our quiz, our own Kahoot quiz. But this time, we actually have fixed one issue that we faced last time. And now all of you can actually participate. So you're not just going to answer it in the YouTube comments. You can participate by logging in on the link that's shown on the screen and answering the questions there. Now, you might be thinking that, hey, why do I even have to do this? What do I get in return? Well, for you folks that are asking this question, it's pretty exciting. The folks that win or answer, there'll be some criteria. And if you satisfy the criteria of this quiz, then you get some Google swag. So like the Flutter Dash, which is the blue bird that you might have seen. So some kind of Google swag will be sent your way. So we are pretty excited about this quiz. And so participate and let's. We are pretty excited. We hope you are too. So we'll give you a few minutes, a little bit of time. Uh, you can log in on the link on the screen, and once I get the green light, uh, so then we can start. All right, we see one participant.
There's a little bit of a lag, so give it a few seconds.
I see. We'll give it a few seconds. Yeah, till then I'll talk about well, the weather. The weather is, well, we're going to be building an app today for that. Weather is overcast, flat, partly cloudy. Weather is pretty cold. You can clearly see that we're waiting. 5 people have come in already. Cool. And all right, we have got a 6th one. And so this is, yeah, as I said, there's going to be some Google swag that's going to be given to the people who satisfy the criteria. So, yep, people are joining in. 8 people so far. Again, the link is on the screen. All right, perfect. A 9th one joined in, and we'll give it 1 more minute for you folks to get ready and to. So this quiz is basically going to be on what we've covered last week. Like, it mainly deals on what we've covered last week. So if you want, you can open up your project from last week, right? There's no harm in that. Yeah, it's just going to be some relatively easy questions just to revise what we've done last week so we can understand this week's session. So yep, so it looks like we've got 9, and yep, got the green light. And so let's begin. So our first question, and we've got 11, perfect. Now our Flutter Intermediate quiz. So the countdown, and first question, which package did we use last week to implement advanced state management? So we used a package, if you remember, to do this advanced state management to handle our variables. We downloaded the currencies, and we to handle the state throughout the app, we used some package. Which package did we use for advanced state management? So 2 answers came in. Perfect. So we have got 1 correct answer. Yep, that's absolutely right. The provider package. Provider package is a Flutter favorite. Everyone who uses Flutter has, or at least the majority of us, we all love the Flutter package. So this is, I mean, the provider package. This is something that we should keep in. You should remember. This is pretty amazing. So that's why we included this question. It's pretty important to know this package for implementing any state management throughout your app. Perfect. Let's head over to the next question. Oh, yes, and we can even get to see who has got the correct answer. Absolutely. Now, this is important, and this is pretty fun. We all love the dark theme. How do we implement dark themes in our Flutter apps? So, is it theme.dark or background.dark, brightness.dark, or just is it a Boolean that dark theme is equal to 6 answers? An overwhelming group of you. So wow, so 2 people got it correct this time. This is pretty amazing. And there's no harm in trying. So there's no right or wrong answer as such. It's just to have some fun. So yes, we use brightness.dark. Brightness, as the name suggests, is bright, right? If you want, by default, your theme is light, right? So it is a white background with black text. But if you want to change it to a dark theme with white text, then you have to use brightness.dark. So perfect. So we can head on over to the next question. Oh yes, and we get to see who is leading. That's pretty amazing. And now for our third question, 3 of 5. Yes, this is pretty cool. So we have implemented a widget last week that had leading, title, subtitle, and trailing. Which one of these widgets had these 4 fields? 4 answers coming in. This is a pretty exciting widget that we all love. So let's see, 4 answers came in. Yeah, Perfect. Two of you got it right. And also, one quick thing I want to let you know is this some lag between the YouTube stream and also what's happening on Kahoot. So your main point of focus should be Kahoot because this will be trailing behind. So be sure to look at Kahoot for which question appears on your screen and follow Kahoot. The video, sure, it'll be lagging in some time. So follow Kahoot for sure. Very nice. List style. If you remember, on the left, we had our currency, our three-letter code for our currency, title and subtitle, and then finally the conversion rate. Question 4. Okay, which one of this is not a valid color in theme data? So there are a few kind of colors that we have in theme data. So we might have spoken about primary, accent. What about the other two? Which one of them is wrong? Which one of it is not a color? 7 answers, an overwhelming 7. Drop your response in the chat. Perfect. So this is pretty nice. Dark primary color. The actual property is primary color dark. So that's the thing. So primary color dark. So our three main colors that we are focused with is primary color dark, and accent color. These are our three main colors. Now scaffold background color is something that you may not know because we will not touch on it too much, but this is a helpful tip. Is if you want all the scaffolds throughout your app to change to one color, no need of individually changing the colors for each scaffold. Just set it in your theme data and it exports itself to all the scaffolds. Yeah, this will get much more clear with time. And now we can have a quick look at leaderboards. How are people doing? So to get you riled up to see who, because this is the last question now. So Dalton seems to be having an overwhelming lead. Let's see if people can. Let's see who gets this. So finally, for our last question. For our last question of the quiz, which widget is used to enter text in Flutter? So we know that the text widget, I'll just give this for you. Text widget is to display text. But how do we input text from the user? So it's surely not A, that's a hint. It's one of the three. So what is it? Enter text. How do we enter text? 7 answers. Amazing. So I'm glad the two of you got it right. Thank you for participating, everyone. This is amazing. Yes, we use a text field widget. So whenever you want to input text from the user, we just create a text field widget, and then you can customize the text field widget by adding style properties to customize the look of your text field widget. You can even customize the fonts, the borders, the hint text, the label text. There's a whole long list of properties that you can edit. So that's right. Text field is the way we enter text we get text from the user into our app. So thanks for participating, everyone. Let's have a quick look at how our leaderboards look at the end of this quiz. And let's have a look. So, all right, dog. And finally, Dalton came second. So somebody bet Dalton in this. So who is it? Let's have a quick look. All right, this is pretty amazing. So this is very nice. You all, thanks for participating. This is amazing. So as I mentioned, so Madhusha will handle out, sending out the gift. So don't worry, you'll get some Google swag. So more on that from it's maybe in the comments, or we'll spread some information more about that. Madhusha can come on and.
Hey, very quickly, make sure to message us on Discord, and then we know who you are, so we can track you down and send you the swag.
Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. You can on Discord. So on TOTV's Discord server, just let Madhusha know, and then that should work. Perfect. Now for our app today, week 6, our weather app UI. As we mentioned last week, we're going to build a professional app UI. So let's take a look. Before this, as always, I mention it, be sure to join TOTV's Discord server because that's where that's the main central hub of all information. So be sure to join the Discord server. You can get help and ask questions there, and it's a very lively and vibrant community. So it's a great community to be a part of. Now, what we have done so far, weeks 1, 2, 3 were the beginner level. So we built a Hello World app, favorite celebrities, love calculator. Mainly, Hello World was just to get a taste of Flutter, favorite celebrities to get a taste of Flutter UI, love calculator to get a taste of Flutter coding. Then we went one level up and we started to be much more, go into much more in the in-depths of Flutter UI and Flutter coding. And putting it in together, we built our dog quotes app, our currency converter app. Again, all videos on YouTube on this channel itself, and all the GitHub links will be there too. And today, our week 6 is what's the weather app. So we're going to be building, we're going to be using a few amazing widgets here. Now, this is a small thing, a small change to our series. So we originally had planned week 7 and week 8 to basically cover everything on Firebase. Now, there's a very good friend of ours, Rafael Zizas. So he's preparing a Firebase series, a dedicated Firebase series, and also we are trying to get some instead of actually covering Firebase in week 7 and week 8, trying to switch it up and spice it up a little bit and change the schedule a little bit. So week 6, that is this week, will be our final Flutter week. So it'll be our final week where we discuss an app, so to speak. Week 7 and week 8 will be some wildcard kind of sessions. So you might see some kind of interviews with some folks from, this is a surprise. We're going to have maybe some interviews. We're going to play around and let's see what we can do for these 2 weeks. So as I mentioned, these 2 weeks won't happen, and stay tuned for Rafael's Firebase workshop. So he's planning some great workshops, and I've seen a little bit of it, and it's amazing. So stay tuned for that. So the reason why we're all here today, our very first professional UI, our weather app UI. So here's how our app is going to look, right? As you can see, we have in today's session, it's not only for coders because there is no coding involved, right? This is just a static UI. So we're going to be building we're going to talk about advanced UI design in Flutter. So all the colors and the icons here and the images, the text style, the text font. As you can see, this is pixel perfect. This is the kind of beautiful UIs that Flutter lets you create. So we're going to see how do we do that. A few key things are the main things that we're going to touch upon in today's session. Decorating our containers. So we're going to talk about this in great detail today. We're going to try to mess with these attributes and try to see how we can beautify our UI. So border radius, which is this curved edges, curved corners, box shadows. So if you notice, there's a small shadow here. This is the first time we're going to talk about shadows, so something new. Background color. So if you notice the app bar, instead of having a color, it's actually white. So we're going to talk about that. App bar, elevation, color, leading action. So how do we get these two icons here? We're going to talk about that. And text. So we do not focus too much on beautifying our text, but today we're going to do just that. No coding, just beautifying our UI. So this is our plan for today. Now, there's one thing that I must mention is this is something that we will all, this is something pretty common in the Flutter development pipeline or in your Flutter development learning experience, right? We see all these blueprints of UIs on Dribble. So Dribble spelled with 3 B's, right? Dribble.com. So here there are amazing designers that show these blueprints of some great app designs, and we as developers, we can practice them. That's fine, but always you have to give credit. So today's app is designed by Mohammed. So it's not me. It's totally giving credits to the design. The idea of the design is given by Mohammed, and we just implemented this design in Flutter. So just giving credits to Mohammed. So it's his design. And so without any further ado, let us start working on our app. So again, the link will be in the description, and if not, we'll paste it in the description. If you want to have a look at the layout that we're going to be building today, so this is the Dribble website, the layout that we're going to be building. And now, as always, our GitHub repo, again, the link must be in the description. And if not, we'll paste it in the chat so you all can check it out. And as always, we have our our different branches. And yeah, if you want, you can check out the screenshots and follow Mohammed if you want. So it's amazing design, and you might enjoy some of his other designs. Cool. So as always, click on code and copy this URL from here and open Android Studio, file, new, project from version control. So click on project from version control and paste this URL here. So I'm gonna save it there, paste this URL here, and then hit clone. So now it will ask you, do you want to create an Android Studio project for it? And we will select no, we don't want to do that. And now what's happened is it has cloned the GitHub repository onto a local device. Now to open it, click on File, Open, since it's not open recent, so open, and let me find. So I have a very long path that I usually save these projects at. And this is the one. So choose the one, and then I'm going to select new window. So it's going to open our project in the new window. So a README file. But basically, what's important here is on the bottom right, you see this Git. So when you expand this and click Show 14 More, and let's expand this a little more, you see our 7 steps. As always, app is dividing the steps with to-dos. So that's what we're going to do today. Our first step is let us all these errors here. So last week, Kasiba had told us a helpful trick is just be sure to hit dot analysis, open the dot analysis tab, and hit this refresh icon, right? This restart icon, and hopefully the error should go away. And let's expand lib and main dot. And yeah, if you see something like this, just hit get dependencies. And so because we are going to be using some external libraries, so let's get that downloaded. Expand dot analysis, and let's hit a refresh. So always some kind of errors appear like this. So yeah, we just hope it gets, yep, and that should fix the problem. And let's give it some time for everything to stabilize. And until that loads, our app is let's start our app on our emulator here. So we're currently starting our master branch, so it's the solution. So you can play around with the solution, see how it looks, and get a feel for it, right? Now, until this loads, some very important tips. If you're on the Discord server, so if you notice on Discord, under the Flutter series of the TOTV Discord server, you can paste your questions here and tag me, right? So I will notice that someone has tagged me, and then I will answer the question at the end of the step. So this is a great way to show any screenshots. Let's say if you have some error, you can show your screenshots. Also, be sure to put your questions in the YouTube live chat. So it will be featured very quickly on the screen, and I will answer almost immediately. So be sure to put your questions in. Questions are the best way to learn, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. So Discord and YouTube live chat. I hope you make most use of it. It's pretty amazing. And now our app is nearing the end of loading on our emulator. And so, by the way, this is all static information. So today we're just going to be focusing on our UI. So 24 degrees, it's not 24 degrees here. It's freezing cold here. So in Celsius, it might be maybe 10 or 15 in that range. So it's not dynamic information. Let's give it some more time here. You can play around. And so this is something new that we're going to do today, is building a horizontal list view. So far we have just done vertical. So today we're going to even build horizontal. And the wait is done. The time is finally here. So we loaded our app on our emulator. So looks like I froze there again. I actually switched to an other router, so I should freeze less often. So the first time, hopefully it doesn't happen many more times. Perfect. So now you can play around with the solution code. Let's start to work on our step 1 starter code. So be sure to go to remote branches, step 1 starter code, and check out. So with this, what happens is, if you notice now, it downloaded it to a local device. So now if you expand your to-do pane and expand this, expand lib, expand components, keep expanding, and you will notice the to-dos for today. And since this is like a pretty extensive app, all the solutions are commented here. So if you want, you can, let's hit Control S to give a hot reload here. You can, to follow along, instead of actually coding it or instead of actually designing it, no coding today, just designing, you can just uncomment these lines out and hit Control S, and right, you can see the change. So if you ever are lost, or if you are lagging behind, not to worry at all. You can just uncomment this out and have fun with this, right? It's yeah, you can do that. So have you checked adopt a widget program that Flutter is running? Absolutely. So this is something that's catching speed on Twitter, and thanks for mentioning that too. So I'm not too sure about it, but it is, if someone likes a particular widget and has a lot of knowledge about that, I think they can make some videos on it, or they are featured by the Flutter team. I'm not too sure, but I know this is something that's happening. So all of you can check it out too if you're interested. And thanks for mentioning that. Perfect. So our first, let's start to build our UI. So in our components, lib components, we have this custom app bar, right, which is basically this app bar here. So we're going to be building this app bar. So if you notice in our final app, so after step 1, we should have something like this. So we should have this app bar to be white color. So very simple, background color. Everything in Flutter is part of like key value pairs. It's part of property name and property value. So background color, colors dot white, and Control S, and you notice that this became white now. Now you can see this small shadow here that comes by default. We don't want that. So to do that, there's another property called elevation. As easy as that. And just give it an elevation of 0.0. And you notice the shadow disappears. Now the app bar and the scaffold are the same level. Earlier the app bar was above. Now they are at the same level. That's our elevation. Now let's try to get this image here. So if you notice in our assets folder, in our images folder, you already are given these images in the starter code itself. So we're going to be using the custom menu icon 5. So basically this icon here that's that looks pixelated when you zoom in a little bit, but for the zoomed out level it should be fine, pretty big. So this is a common property called leading of an app bar, right? Leading and trailing, just like our list style. Leading is the part on the left of the screen or on the start part of the screen, and trailing is at the end. So let's have a leading. Leading is a widget, so we'll give it an image. The widget will be an image, and for the image property of this image, let's give it an asset image. And basically, let's copy this path. So assets slash images slash custom menu icon underscore 5.png. So be sure to hit even the .png, that's important, and hit Control S, and you should see that appear here. Now, for formatting reasons, let's just give it a height and width of 20. And if you want to have see the borders of this icon or of this image, hit Flutter Inspector and show debug paint. So now you can see how much of the app bar is being consumed by this image. Let's give it a height of 20.0 and a width of 20.0. Hit Control S, and yes, not much changes, so that's good. Now we have to try to implement this portion of the screen here. So as I mentioned, this is leading. So this is something called trailing. But in app bar, we don't use something called trailing. Think of it as a synonym. A synonym for trailing in app bars is something called actions. So let me head back over to our code. And so just below leading, you can have something called actions, which takes in an array of widgets, right? And now here what we'll do is, let's give it an image. Actually, not an image, let's give it an icon. And within the icon, you can type here icons dot more underscore horns, which stands for the more. So if you hit control space, right, let's hit control space and give it some time, you notice you get to see how the icon looks like. So there's more vertical, more horizontal, I believe. Yeah, there are all these options. So we're going to use the more horizontal, which is the horizontal one. Hit control S, and you should see it here. Yep, the color, let's give it a color of so just refer to the code that we have here, because here we have taken like accurate hex values from the design on Dribble. So let's type in here color, and within the brackets OXFF, actually just paste the whole thing. Now a little bit about what this, so hit control S, and you should see it appear here. Now a little bit about what this is. So if you are familiar with hex codes, perfect, but if you aren't, not a problem. Basically every color, right, can be represented in terms of R, G, B, red, green, and blue. So this is basically the hex value. So hexadecimal numbers, where R is represented by these two digits here, basically in hex format. So it could have a value from 0 to 255, basically like 0 to 100%. So your red, green, and blue are of the same value. And this FF here is basically transparency. So FF is equal to the highest opaqueness, and 00 is equal to the highest transparentness or the least opaqueness. So we'll always have double Fs. Now let's show the debug pane. You might be noticing that this is sticking to the edge of the screen. So wrap this widget. By the way, let's put a comma here. So Control Alt L. Right, so you can reformat this. Now wrap this icon. So hit Alt Enter and wrap it with something called a constrained. Oops. Wrap it with it constrained box. Now we don't need to go into what exactly this is. This is just basically I went in the Flutter inspector and noticed this, and we're just going to use this for now. And inside the constraint box, we can take something like constraints, and this is something that you'll see quite commonly, box constraints. And this has like max width, max height, min width, min height, basically like constraints, as the name suggests, is basically you want to constrain the size of your view or size of your widget. So you can, here there are 4 properties: min, width, height, max width, height. We're just going to be giving it, so like I've messed around with these, and the perfect one to get this pixel perfect UI is giving it a min width of 56.0. So how do I know this? Basically, you can just play around with it and check the Flutter inspector and refresh this and just see, show the debug pane and see that you kind of get this distance here is almost equal to this distance here, right? So you can just play around with it, and that's our app bar. So I'll remove the debug pane, and now if you notice, hit Control S, and everything looks like our final session. So we have completed step 1. We worked on our app bar. I think we have to increase the size of this icon, so let us do that. So let's observe here. Yep, the icon has a size of 30. So within our icon, let's give it a size 30.0. As our image here is given a size of 20.0. So now it's kind of much more uniform. And perfect. So we have completed step 1. So as always, let's head over to the terminal and save these changes, right? And if you are ever lost, not a problem, just uncomment these changes out, and that also would work. Cool. So git add dot as always, and git commit -n. So and just typing any message. This is basically just a message to say what is this commit about, right? So just something like completed step 1. And now, after we complete every step, I would check the YouTube comments. So if there's any comments, we can show it on the screen. And also, I noticed that maybe someone might have. All right, it's someone else. So let's leave it at that. Yep. So as always, you can put your questions in the YouTube chat section, and also on Discord. So I will answer that at the end of every step. Perfect. So now the step 1 is done. Let's see what to do in step 2. Step 2 is basically to change the text style of this text, right? So we're going to learn how to beautify our text. So let's head back over to Android Studio, our emulator here, and let's switch to step 2 starter code. The step 2 starter code, and click on checkout. So that way you're downloading the step 2 starter code from the online Git repo onto your local device. So now if you notice, it's present in your local branches. So you can hit Control S, right? And let's head over to our to-dos to see what this is pretty surprising. So here we should be working on our, let me close this. Here we should be working on our home screen. So under screens, under home screen folder, home screen.dat. Yep. So for some reason it didn't show up in the to-do pane. Yeah, but anyway, it's here. So again, the solution is commented out, so you can just uncomment it out. But we're going to work on it. So just like last time, we even asked it in last week's quiz. Basically, how do we style a text? Very simple. Within the brackets of a text, your first parameter should be the text that you want to show. So I could change this to, let's say Baton Rouge, where I'm from. I mean, I'm just staying here. I'm not from here. I'm just staying here, studying at good old LSU. Go Tigers! So basically, the text will come here. Control S, right? And now to style it, just after the comma, there's a style property that takes in something called a text style. Now, you might be thinking that this is well and good, but now I have to, if I change font size, something like 25.0, size changes, but the font hasn't changed here. So to change the fonts, we can head over to a website called fonts.google.com, and I will include the link in the description or in the YouTube comments, so you can check it out. This is basically a list of amazing fonts. So you can even filter them through your sans serif and all the serif fonts or monospace, handwriting. So that matches your preference. You can even type something here. Let's say like Baton Rouge to see how it looks like in the previews. So just by looking at it, you can think like, hey, this looks pretty attractive. I want to use this. So how do we use these fonts in our Flutter app? So once you have found a font that you like, so we're going to use two fonts here, Railway. Oh, not here. Search here, Railway. And yep, here's some texture up here. I'm going to use this Railway font and also Nunito. So this is just a preference, right? This I felt matched the font here in our layout, to a fair extent. So we're going to use that. Now, how do we use these fonts in our Flutter app? So if you notice in our starter code, under the root directory, pubspec.yaml file, this is already done for you, is we have included this library called Google Fonts. So Google Fonts here is basically, you can head over to pub.dev and search here for Google Fonts, and it's basically the first one. You can read over the documentation. Basically, you can directly use any of the fonts on Google Fonts website into your Flutter app, as easy as that. So this is already done for us. So let's head over to our home screen.dart and let's delete text style. We won't do everything from scratch. Instead, we will use our newly downloaded Google Fonts library. Hit Google Fonts dot. Now here you have a plethora of options here. So we're going to be choosing railway, and now within this you can add, so Control S. Notice the font has changed here, right? Now I can hit font size. So we're using a font size of 25. Control S. Right? You can see that the font style has changed. I can easily change this to something like any of the available fonts here. So let's take Pacifico. Changes, and it's as easy as that. So you can mess around with these, choose something that you like. We're going to stick with railway, and we have to make this a little bold. So to do that, font weight. So font weight, let's give it a font weight of font weight dot bold. Now if you hit Control S, notice that it starts to become a little more bolder. And finally, for a last thing, is the color. So we have chosen this color of all of them are 3. So the RGB values are basically 3 in hex format. And so here, let's give it a color and a color object. And within this, you can just paste what's given here, or you can type it down again. So basically completely opaque, and then Control S. There's a very subtle change. Right? It looks almost black in color, but it's just subtle change there. Yep, and we got this now. Let's now work on our Indonesia. So as like after the comma of the text, so anywhere here, we'll just do it below the to do style. Like last time. So let me scroll up so you can see how we did it last time. I mean, just now, but basically Google Fonts dot railway, and within the brackets, now here you can specify additional customization parameters. So here you can do something like font size 21.0. So basically something smaller than our main city here, 21.0. And you notice that it becomes much more larger. And the text style has changed to, or the font has changed to Indonesia. Now a couple of more things here. Let's give it a weight. So font weight, W300. We have discussed this last week. A quick refresher. Font weight is basically the thickness of the text. So bold. So basically, if you delete this and hit Control Space, you get all these values here. The more smaller number is lighter. So let's choose this and Control S. Very thin text, and we're going to use W300. So slightly on the thinner side, but slightly more thicker than 100. And bold is W700. So so you can just remember that. Or you can just type in bold. It doesn't matter. Anything is fine. Both are the same. Even this would work. And we shouldn't see any change here. Perfect. That's to do 2. And let's see if, and yep, that's the only 2 to dos in this section. So very good if you have come to here. We just spoke about how to style our text. And so now we have got our stage 2 here. Now let's have a look at our next stage. Our next stage is to get this container here, to get this card, and then a beautiful image here, text, style the text, and colors the text, style the container. So how do you get this curved edges, this curved corners here? How do you change the color of the container? We're going to talk about that. So as always, at the end of every step, we would check the YouTube comment section. So if there's any question, we can feature on the screen now. And also I would check Discord if there are any. Is there a way to add elevation to the text? Very good question. So technically, as far as I know, there isn't. We can read the documentation and we can check it out. But One way to do it is using something that we're going to cover today, is something called shadows. So you can one way to do it is you can wrap your container, your text within a container. So we can experiment around with this. I'll just do it quickly to show an example. We're going to do this, by the way, today. Something called box shadow, decoration. Box decoration. There's something called box shadow that takes in an array of box shadow and control space. So you can specify some stuff like colors.gray. There's 400, which is what we're going to be using, and hit control space, and we notice a shadow here. And so I'll just show you a quick demo on how you could probably add how you could probably add elevation to your text, and you can slow down and see this later and ask questions if there are again. And you can just give your container a color of match the background. Give a comma here, match the background, and give it an offset. I'm going to cover this, so don't worry. It might seem alien now, but it'll be much more clear soon. -2. So the shadow is, let's give it +4, and blur radius of any number here. For the demo, we'll go with this, and you can get some elevation here. You can mess around with these, but this is one way of getting elevation. We can refer to the documentation getting elevation for the actual text, but as far as I know, I haven't done it so far, and I think it might be some obscure way, but it's not very straightforward. Yep, that's the thing. Cool, very good question. So let us delete our container and get back to our step. Perfect. Now let us save our changes. So git add dot git commit -m, and just type any message here. So completed step 2. And now all the green and the orange line should go away. And now let us download step 3 starter code. So head over to step 3 starter code and check out. And now we should get our new list of to-dos. So for some reason this didn't seem to be working here, but basically we're going to be working on this card here, right? So if you head back over to our app, and let me open the emulator here, it's basically under lib, and under screens, under home screen components. So again, lib, screens, home screen components, and here there's something called weather card, which currently is the child is null. Yep, and so currently this container doesn't even have a child. So we're going to be working on creating a child of this container. So if you click on Flutter Inspector, and let us give this container a height, so you can see it, 100.0. This is a container here. So we're going to be working on this container here. So let's do a couple of things. So let's delete the height. Let's follow the to-dos so we can implement step 3. So first things first, a child of the container will be another container. So it will be clear on why we're doing it. Container is, think of it as a div block or a div tag in your HTML. So basically, we're just containerizing. They're just putting everything in groups. Now in our container takes a child and a column. Now, if you remember from our previous weeks, column is to have a vertical arrangement of widgets. So if you notice here, we have a vertical arrangement, right? An image followed by our text, followed by another text. It's a vertical arrangement. So we use column widget. Now within the column, as always, we have a children property here. takes a list of children. Now for here, our first thing is image, right? We have an image there. The image takes in an image property, asset image. So again, just like last time, and the assets folder, images folder, all the images are provided here. So currently the one that you're seeing here is from, yeah, it is cloudy with sun. So let's use that. Assets / images / cloudy with sun dot png. So I think I put dot here and hit Control S, and now you should see this here. Now the cloud is actually white color, and so is our background. So let us start to work on that. So our container for now, like we'll do some other stuff here, but our container, there's a color property. And now let's just, for testing purposes, let's just give it a color of red. Let's say we can see the container size in the cloud here, but we'll change this color red, of course. Yeah, it doesn't match our theme of blue and white. Let's give it a comma here. Our image. Now our image is currently scaled, like it's not scaled, right? We need to give it a fixed height and width. So let's give it a height and a width. So width of 150.2 and height of 100.0 plus, and you basically get this image here. And let's hit Control Alt L so we can reformat this and get a much more easy to read code. And a couple of other things. Yep. Currently, there's no space here, so let's add some space there. So our first child, actually, I didn't do the step. Our first child is a sized box. Const size box height 20.0. And if you're ever stuck, again, as always, all the stuff is here, so you can check it out. Hit Control S, and you should see the size box appear here, right? Then you have the image. Next, you have the text. So text, and the text says heavy rain. Hit Control S, you see the text appear here, but it's not clear. So heavy rain. Let's size the text. So style, just like last time, Google Fonts. To be able to use the fonts provided by Google. Next is railway. Within this, we have a color, size, and weight. So the color is colors dot, just color for now. And so we can pass in a custom hex values, FF to E, or E to E, BFF. Control S. It became slightly a shade of white. And let's hit Control, put commas here. Let's hit Control Alt L, so we can format this code here. Color and what else? Color and size. So font size 4.0. Control S, and font weight. Font weight dot bold. Control S, and you get something that's slightly much more bolder now. Now actually, let us. So yeah, this is actually the 10th step. But let's implement this now so we can see the background, the beautiful background. And now it looks, it's not very appealing to the eye, this red color, because our app theme, if you notice, is blue. So let us delete this line of color, and let us do step 10 first. So decoration takes in something called the box decoration. So basically, we're giving color property, decoration property with a box decoration object. Within this, let's give it a color of color, and it's a custom color that you have to take. I'll just copy this whole line here. You can do the same and paste this here. Control S, and we should get the shade of blue that we want. Comma, and then enter. And now to get these curved edges here, simple, border radius. And that takes in something called the border radius. Now there are multiple types of border radius. So if you hit dot and control space, so we're going to use this circular, which is the easiest to use. And here, instead of hard coding a 20.0, instead what we do is we give it a default border radius. So if you remember from last time, remember constants dot dot. If you don't, a quick refresher. So in our constant dot dot, we have already written these values for us. What is default margin was default border radius, and so now if you ever want to change the border radius throughout the app, just change it in one place, and all the places that have referenced this variable will use the new value. So this is really good object-oriented principles. Now in our weather card, yep, Control S, and you should see the change here. Now let's start implementing. Okay, heavy rain, we have done this. Let's add a spacing here. Font sized box, height of 10. And now if you notice, there's some space here. Let's see what's the problem here. It's not within the text. Place it here, and you should get some spacing here, some extra space. And after that, you have to add another text, and that should say Sunday, 02 October. So this, just like last time, takes in a style widget. It takes in a style, and instead of passing it a text style that we have to start from scratch, instead we use Google Fonts dot railway, and within the bracket, other stuff, color, size, and weight. So let me first give a comma and reformat this so we can get some nice hierarchy here, some neat visual here. And in the railway, let's give it a color. In the color, you can hit this, paste it here, and Control S, and you should see the text appear here in the color. Now let's work on our size. Font size. So this is probably called font size, and this have to give 16.2. And for our weight, W400. Now this is actually redundant because by default the font weight of any text is W400 if you use all the defaults. So they can even comment this line out and we should see no change. It's the same thing, but I just keep it in there. Yeah, just to be more specific maybe, but it doesn't matter. Then we'll add a sized box, const sized box, and here we're giving it a height of can't see the mouse, 20.0. Let's give it a height of 20.0 and Control S. Now you should notice this extra space here, and let us hit Control Alt L so we can reformat this and make it look neat. And we are almost done. Let us wrap our container with something called the clip r rect, which will be much more clear in the future why we're using it, because we want to use something called a table. So we'll talk about this in a few more future steps. So just wrap this container, Alt Enter, wrap it with it, wrap it with something called a clip r rect, and this takes in something called a border radius. Border radius, I've heard this somewhere. Yep, it's the same border radius as this one. So you can actually just copy this whole line and paste it here. Control S, and looks like there's some errors here. Yeah, let's do so one extra parenthesis, Control Alt L, Control S, and you should see no visible change, but in the future you will notice why this is. So I will talk about that. And that's it for step 3. So great going if you have come to here, and it's always the end of every step. Let me hit Control S, and we can compare with our expected result that we wanted, and it matches. So that's good. So at the end of every step, I will check Discord and check YouTube. So if there are any YouTube live chat questions, we can feature them on the screen now, and I can answer those. And in the meantime, let me save these changes. or let me actually check the Discord first. There seems to be a question there. Yes. How do you decide when to make a widget immutable using constant and when not? Very good question, Rafael. So also, is it better to wrap a widget with padding and use edge insets dot only, or to use size box? Amazing question. So what Rafael, let me address the second question first. The sized box here, if you notice we're using the sized box, this is much more preferred. So let me, you can notice the, right? So instead of doing sized box, what you can do is wrap your image. So Alt Enter. You notice this wrap with padding. So let me actually show you the debug pane before doing this. Take the image, Alt Enter, wrap with padding, and by default it wraps it with an all padding of 8.0. So Control S. Next you get this cushion, right? But this is a little more hard to understand because when you are reading this layout, right, your mind it's reading vertically. So you see this padding, but padding is not an essential like element in your screen. So padding is not an essential like element in your screen, right? The essential. Whoops, looks like I froze again. But the good thing now is happening much more rarely. So the new router is functioning a little better, so that's good. So one thing is that when you're reading your code vertically, this kind of catches your attention, but it's not really compulsory. Right? It's not the it shouldn't catch your attention. It should something that should be secondary. So the actual widget is image. You shouldn't be digging down your tree to find that. That's one reason. Second reason is, let's say if you're here, how will you know that there's some space between the upper widget and text? You know, if you have to scroll, like you have to scroll all the way up to read this. If you had a const size box here, 10.0 maybe. Now when you're reading it, it's very easy to read. Like, okay, there's a size of 20, then space of 20, then the image, then there's space of 10 and text. So that's why we prefer in columns, especially, we prefer size box. But there's no, it doesn't matter really. Very good question. And now for your first question is when to decide immutable. So like making your widget immutable, like I think you're referring to this. So it's a very good question actually. So there is no like significant visible difference. However, by using this const keyword, whenever your widget tree is rebuilt, so whenever you hit Control S or when you hit this hot reload, you know, if any widget has changed, let's say if your container has changed, if I change this color here, we will have to redraw all the widgets in its subtree. Like everything that's the children of container are going to be redrawn, which takes resources. So by using const, you tell Flutter that, hey, even though this container has changed, don't create a new sized box. Use the same one. So this, in this case, like sized box is not visual, right? So nothing will change. It just always has a height of 20. So you can use const. Now, can you use const for image? So there are some widgets that don't have a const, what do you say? Don't have a const constructor. If you look in the documentation, right, hold Control and click on it. So here there's a const constructor here, but some widgets don't have it. So for those, you can't use const. So is it a hard and fast rule to use const because it speeds up your I mean it limits the use of resources, right? It doesn't matter too much. So just for size box, use const, but it doesn't matter. Very good question, Rafael. So amazing questions. Keep your questions pouring in, all of you. And now, have you saved it? We have saved step 2. Let's save step 3 also. So git add dot git commit dash m completed step 3. Perfect. Now let's head over to step 4. So git, let's download our step 4 starter code and check out. And hit Control S, basically. Any changes? Yeah. Well, looks like this image size was a little different. Let me remove the debug pane so we can see. UI is starting to take some good shape now, right? So let's see our next step. Our next step is to implement the temperature here And also these 4 boxes here. This is the table that I was referring to earlier. Remember I said, why are we wrapping our container within a clip R rect? It'll be much more clear in this step. So let's have a look. Let's use our Android Studio. Our emulator is here. And let us find the to-dos. We found it. So within our weather card, our first thing is, if you notice here, this is a horizontal arrangement, right? Our first text is this 24. Our next text is this degree sign. So it's a horizontal arrangement of views. So for horizontal, as we have discussed, right, as usual, we use something called a row, not a column, but a row. So let's do this row, and within row, let's take our children, and also main axis element dot center. So main axis center, and our children. So okay, so our first thing is we need a text that says 24. Hit Control S, and we just see the text appear here. It's very hard to see, so let us style it soon. But let's actually give it text. And now you can copy this degree sign by selecting this, Control C, and pasting it here. Now, or you can search on Google for the degree sign and copy paste it, or you can hold your Alt button on your keyboard and type in here in the number pad, or I'm not sure if the usual numbers work, like above your keys, right, above your letters, but it surely works for your number pad, Alt and then 0176, and then you get the sign. That's basically like your ASCII kind of codes. So you can refer to what that means. Control S, and now let's start to style it. So here we're going to use the Nunito, so style. Instead of using Google Fonts Railway, we'll use something similar, Nunito. Hit Control S. It's very faint, but let me increase the size so all of you can see. So Control L. Font size. Now this must be much more easier for all of you, I hope. Right? We have done this many times. Font size, and now next is color. Right? So you can see how to build UIs in Flutter. Color. Let's give it colors.white and Control S, and that's what we want. And next is font weight. W600. Control S, and now it should be slightly more thicker, bold, slightly more bold. Next, let's style our degree sign, and let's give it style. Google Fonts dot Nunito, and let's give it a comma and Control Alt L. And as always, if you feel I'm going too fast, you can just uncomment the code out from here, so not to worry at all. And also there's even solution code, right? Step 4 solution code, so you can have fun with it, experiment around with it, and use this repo to your liking. Now, and then Nunito font size. So now I've messed around with the numbers, and the best, I'm just going to follow these 50.0. You can just like mess around with these. How do I know 50.0? Like you can see what works best. So what about 20.0, and hit Control space, and it's too small, and keep it the same size. The intuition says keep it the same size as your number here, right? So we just use 50.0. And actually the same thing, white and W600. So what I'll do, a shortcut is Control C and copy all of these. And I think we have one extra here, so let me delete this. Yep, and that Control Alt L, Control S, and it should be white, and we got the degree sign. So this looks good so far. So we've done 2, 3, 4. I mean only 2, 3. Let's work on 4. So below the text, const size box, height 20.0. And now if you notice, there'll be some extra space here, Control S, some extra spacing. Oh, yeah. So not within the row. Yeah, not within the row. So what was happening? Let me show you a mistake. So in the Flutter Inspector, you can get the debug pane here. Control S. You have the sized box of height within the row, right? So now let me give it a width also. Not 1000, but 100.0. So what was happening? I was keep placing it within the row. So height of 40 would basically be this one. But I want to keep the size box here, so I can just Control X this whole thing, and wherever row ends, we are still within the column widget. So this row, that's for this line. Now next line should be our size box. So no need of width for this size box. Let's give it a height of 20.0. And now you should get some spacing here. Next, our table. So let's now build this new widget called table. Now table is something that we haven't covered so far, but it's very intuitive. So you like it's pretty straightforward. So you will understand it fairly quickly. Table takes in one thing it takes in is children. That's the main thing. Now if you click on children and hit Control Q, you notice it takes in a list of table row widgets. So basically, what it is this children is basically the like each row. So I mean, let me show you. So within here, we'll have a table row, and here within the table row, this again takes in children. And if you notice, this is a list of widgets. So let me expand this. Here now, if I type here text 123, hit Control S, you'll notice that it appears here. And let me reformat this. Or let me to show you all container. You don't have to do this. This is just to show you. Colors dot green. Oh. Oh no. So now you can see one green container should appear here, and it expands to the entire width. So now let us copy this container down and give this a size of, a color of, okay, any example color. And you notice it divides and you have a table now. So now the next row could be, let me just duplicate this. Okay. Control Alt L for oh my, it's like, I was using Control D as a shortcut, Control L. And now I will give this purple just for example purposes, and this, let's give it a blue. Blue is already the background, so let's give it a black. And now if you notice, like you're specifying one row, second row. So this table, it takes in the children of rows, and then you can specify the different widgets in your row. So green, red, and purple, black, right? So now you can delete all of this. Basically, what we're going to do is, here we're going to have a widget called table item, which is what we're going to implement. It's partially implemented for us, so we're going to see that now. So instead of these two containers in the first row, we have table item. There's a custom widget that we have done. And here, if you hit Control Space, it takes in 3 widgets. So let's pass them. So title, our first title is wind. So basically what you're doing is this, wind, and then the unit, feels like, index UV, and pressure. That's what we're planning to do. So our first is wind. So title, wind, image, images slash wind.png, and lastly is subtitle. So this was 19.4. I'm not sure the unit here. Let's verify the unit. It is km/j. So again, if you are familiar with it, that's well and good. km/j. Hit Control S, and let us hit Control Alt L so we can see what's the problem here. Yeah. So what it's complaining about is you can't have, like, here you just have one child in the first row and two children in the second row. So let us create one more here. Control S, and now this should be. So if you notice now, you get this wind. So our second one is feels like 25 degrees. So let's implement that. Feels like, and this is thermometer if I'm not wrong. Yeah, thermometer.png, and it will feel like 24 degrees, or whatever for now. Alt 0176 and Control S, and you notice that this changes too, right? Title, subtitle, and over thermometer. If it's not clear, take my word for it. Yeah, it's on the white background, so we will implement the white text here. Don't worry about that. And now let's copy paste stable item, Control C, and paste it for a second row. So second row now shows wind and feels like, but let us change this to index UV2, and this is just 2. And our next one is pressure 104, 1004, M bar. And now for the images, pressure.png, and for index UV, it is sun outline. These are some images that we have provided in this article. So technically, your designers will provide this to you, or you can just create it. Now there are many great tools online like Canva. There's some great tools online. You can make use of them. And Control S. Yep, and that's it. That's our step here. So let me show you how it looks so far. But there's one thing that you can't see the borders here. So within our table, there's a great property called border or table border. Yeah, border. And this takes in something called table border. And now here you can specify table border.all. And here you can specify. So now if you hit Control S, it gives you by default a black border. So let's change the color to. So the color that the Mohammed has used in his sample here, we're going to use the same color, or at least near to the same one. So that one is yep, this is the one. So let us paste this here, color, and now yep, you get the border color here. Very nice. And now to talk about why did we wrap our weather card with a clip R rect? Let's talk about that. So let's remove this clip R rect so you can see the difference. Now observe the edges, the bottom left and bottom right edges, corners. Now it's a little faint and a bit hard to see. Let me actually to make it more apparent. If I find the table border, I will increase the width of it. So this color property. There's a width property. Let's give it a thick width. Yep, you can see this now, right? But now if you notice that you have a hard border here, a hard edge. And you have a hard edge over here. So oops. Yep, a hard edge over here. But the top is this curved edge. So how do you get this curve? So what you do is you wrap your entire container here, the second container. So Alt Enter, wrap it with something called a clip R rect. Clip R rect, as the name suggests, it cuts off the portion that it just cuts off the portion such that you get that border. So clip R rect. Now you have a border radius. Let's give it the same border radius. Control S. Now if you notice, so some errors here. Direct border radius. I spelled it wrong. Border radius. Oh, yep, not clip rect, clip R rect. So the R stands for round. Yeah, that should work now. Now, if you notice, like the remaining portion is clipped. Right now, you have the smooth curves at the bottom left and bottom right. Now, if you notice, you have smooth curves all around. So that works. Um, let's keep this here, and now that's it. So let's save our changes. So you can just ignore this thick border for now. Let's move on to the next step. Git add dot git commit dash m completed. Step 4. And as usual, if there are any YouTube comments, questions, we can feature them on the screen now. And any Discord questions, I see that seems to be fine. So let's move on to our next step. Step 5, we are nearing towards step 7, the end. Step 5, start a code, check out. And hit Control S. So basically you get the solution here. Now let's find the to-dos that we have to implement. So now we have to implement table item, which is basically each item here, right? So let's implement that. Let us style our text. So we've done this numerous times. So now you should feel much at ease with it. Color, and the color that we have given is this one. So this is the exact hex value. So it's already done for us. So now if you notice the color for all the title text, so you can refer to the code, you know what it means. It basically happens to be this. Next, we need font size. So let's give it a font size of 16.0. Now this should change its size. The title text 16.0. Let's give it a weight of W500. So it's slightly more thicker because W400 is the default one. So W500, let's give it a Control S. Slightly more thicker. Now let us style our subtitle text, which is basically this one. Now this one is slightly larger, right? So style will be Google Fonts, but no need to. Within this color, all F's basically means white. So we can just use the default material colors and just say colors.white. Font size. Now font size is 18.0. And finally font weight, which is font weight dot W500. And you can hit Control S. And now you notice that this changes. So this still yeah. And yeah, this basically is all white basically. And that's it. We have completed step 5 also. So let's verify this if there are any other to-dos. Yep, those are the two to-dos. Step 5 is done. Very nice. Let's hit Control F so we can see the changes. And now if you notice, our step 5 should look like this, and it matches. So that's very good. Great progress so far. So this step was short. So let's see if there are any questions. We can feature them on the screen, and I will also check on Discord. And yeah, there are no questions here. So be sure to put your questions in and we can answer those. And now within our, yep, let's save our changes. So terminal, git add dot git commit dash m completed step 5. Perfect. Now let's head on over to step 6. So step 6, start a code and check out. And if you ever fell back, in your previous steps, just go to step 6 for now because the previous steps are already implemented. So don't worry about that. Hit Control S. Yep, and that should be fine. Now we're going to start to work on our today here. So if you notice here, yeah, we have to implement that. So let's work on it. So head over to your hourly weather bar. So quick to show you what it is basically. In our home screen dot, oops. So you can refer to this code, at your leisure, at your pace. A quick refresher, what it is basically, right? This is a column. You have this row here. Next, you have a weather card, which is basically this whole thing here. Next, you have this hourly weather bar, which is this thing over here. So now we're going to work on this layout here. So we can get it to this slightly more beautiful, right? We're styling it. So let's style it now. So let us hold control, and you can click on this and basically head on over to hourly weather bar. Let's style our today text. So there's a lot of text styling today. So you are getting great practice on this. Renito, and use the color of color, and I will take color from here. And also, by the way, you can uncomment this out if you want to save some time there. I will paste this here and Control S. Notice the color changed here and the font changed. Let's make it a little larger now. So font size 20.0, Control S, starts to become a little larger. And let's make it a little more bold. Font weight, Control S, and now it's slightly much more bolder. Perfect. Let us style our second text. Google fonts, and so this we have to give it a, let me copy the color here, color, goes to color, paste the color here, font size of 20, and a font weight W700. Control S, and now then looks like I have some errors here. Oh yeah, font weight W700. And now if you notice, this should change, and very nice. So now it's matched step 6. So I hope you're seeing like how easy it is to build UIs with Flutter, right? This seems complex at first, but they're doing it pretty at ease. And also you might be thinking that maybe you're going too fast, going too slow, whatever is your speed. But with time, like yeah, you will notice this, right? Flutter is the reason why we like Flutter so much is this. It's fairly easy to make these pixel perfect UIs. So our last couple of steps here actually to implement this bottom bar here. So if you notice in our final version, we have this bottom list. So let us create a list view, a horizontal list view, which is something new. So far, we have only done list views vertically, right? A list of views, you can scroll down, keep scrolling down, and you can see more items right at the bottom of the screen. Now you want to scroll horizontally. Let's see how do we do that. So let's go back over here. Now within this container, so let me show you in Flutter Inspector. We select this here, Flutter container. Will this work? Okay, refresh this here. This container is basically the container, this container here. So we're going to work on this container here. So let me remove this, remove the inspector, and let's follow these steps here. You can just uncomment these out. It would save you some time if you want. Perfect. Now, child will be a list view dot separated. I'll talk about what this is. And let's, yeah, list view dot separated. And now this takes in yeah, let's remove this. So comment this out because child was null, but now child should be list dot separated. Now this takes in a few builders, right? So we're going to talk about that. Now these two properties might be familiar to you. Item builder builds an item. Item count tells you how many items are to be built. This is something new, so we'll talk about that. So now in your item builder is basically an anonymous method. So if you're wondering like what is item builder, very easy. Click on this and hit Control Q, your quick documentation that tells you you need a function that takes in context and integer and returns you a widget. So let us take in our context and our index here. And instead of actually doing this, I will do one trick, right? Like in JavaScript, how we do it, the equal to sign and then the greater than sign. And here we'll return something called this early weather card. This is basically what you have to implement here, right? Early weather card. And early weather card. And you have to pass the weather here. So let's pass the weather. Basically, if you scroll all the way up, notice you have this list of weather objects. So basically says the time, temperature, and which image to use. Time, temperature, and which image to use. So it's a list of these objects. So we're going to pass like each of these weather objects. We're going to pass it to this early weather card, so we can display it. So now here we'll pass underscore early weather. Here's that list which I showed you up at the top, and pass an index, which is basically this index variable here. And that's it. So now that's done. Now next is item count. You still get some error here. So item count. Item count, you need to give it early weather is a list that you have up top dot length. Ask questions if there are any, so you can like I can help you out, and you can even send on Discord some screenshots if you have any errors or any kind of questions, and I'll be happy to go over them. List view are separated. So basically this early weather is this list of weather objects that we have. List of weather objects, early weather. So we're just returning the length of this list, early weather dot length. Now if you hit Control S, yep, the separation builder. So let's talk about what that is. So separation builder. And also takes in a context and index. I'm not sure about index, so let's see. Always, if it ever confuse you, Control Q, and yeah, it takes in build context and int, build context and int, and here it returns. So what we're returning is a sized box, which it will be clear on why that is, and let's give it a width of 10. And if you feel like I'm going too fast or anything, ask questions, and also you can uncomment the code out so you can follow along, and Control S. Error should go away. So we're going to see on how to make this work. So that'll be in the next step. This was just to set up our list view. Actually, there's one more thing here. Is let's expand our Flutter inspector. If you notice now, our list view is vertical. You notice this? It's a vertical list of items. Now to make it a horizontal list, very simple. Within our list view separated, there's a property called axis, or sorry, scroll direction. That takes in axis dot horizontal. That's it. Control S. Notice in a flip of a switch, now it becomes a horizontal list. So that's what we wanted, right? In our UI, that's what we wanted, a horizontal list. So our scroll direction is ready. Separation builder is ready. Now you might be wondering, what is separation builder? That's basically what widget to place in the separation between each of the early weather cards. So it will be much more apparent if I do 40. Notice that each separator now, it becomes so large now. Let me give 20. Each separator becomes small. Right, so the separator widget is basically telling you that keep a sized box of width 20 between each of the widgets. So you can have the spacing. Without this, it looks very untidy. Right? All the weather objects are sticking to each other, which we don't want that. So this is a helpful trick, 20.0, 10.0. 20 is too large, 20.0. And that's it. That's our step 6. We are very close to the end. So step 7 is the next step. It's the last step. So step 7. So very good. As always, we check the YouTube comment section. If there are any questions, you can feature them on the screen now and we can check it out. And I will check the Discord. Where does the index argument get initialized and incremented? Very good questions, Rafael. Always amazing questions. So this index variable is actually, it will go to unlimited. So it is like behind the scenes, Flutter, it, it just like has an index variable that basically goes from 0 all the way to infinity, right? Now, how will you know how many objects are there in your list? Because you won't have infinity objects in your list, right? Do that. That's why you tell Flutter that, hey, I don't want infinity widgets. I don't want infinite widgets. What I want is only how many weather objects I have, only that many. So now your item count will go from 0 to, let's say if there are 10 weather objects, so 0 to 9, right? 0 index, so one less, 0 to 9. Now, what it will do is now Flutter knows that, hey, the user, so Rafael, okay, Rafael, you have told me I need to display 10 widgets, right? Using this line of code, I need to display 10 widgets on the screen. Now, what are those widgets to display on the screen is defined by item builder. So now Flutter will call these widgets by passing index of 0 so that you can display the widget at 0th index. It will call this method now again at 1 and you return early weather card for weather 1. And then even though you're returning the same widget for each index, the weather object that you're providing is different. Hence, the data in each of your weather objects will be different. So it looks like different widgets here. So, it calls for 0, calls for 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, calls for 9. It stops at 9 now because you have told Flutter that we have only 10 weather objects. So that's how it happens. You tell how many indexes you have, how many indices you have, and Flutter behind the scenes will, whenever it wants to draw a widget on the screen, it will just call using that particular index value. Very good question, Rafael. So great question. And that's it for our step 3. Step 6, so git add dot git commit dash m. Step 6, completed step 6. Now our final step. So it's pretty exciting. So step 7, start a code. We are very close to the end. And step 7, start a code. So now our to-dos are going to be in early weather card, which is basically each weather card that we're going to display. So currently in our Flutter inspector, if you notice the debug pane, let me hit Control S. These containers are empty containers. Empty containers. So now we're going to work on these containers. So let's do that. Currently it's a container of width 60, so I can give it like a width 90, so you can see the width increases, right? So width 60, 800. But now we're going to work on the appearance of this container. So you notice that each early weather card takes a weather that's basically passed by this list view, right? We call item builder, we give it to early weather card, we're passing it a particular weather. Now what happens is our early weather card, it populates itself by using the weather that's provided to it. So let's see how it works. Now within our decoration, let us decorate this by giving it a color of 0x ff 42 7b ff. And now you notice that you get this blue shade here. Let me remove the inspector so you can see how, now you can see, because now the containers aren't white, so now they're blue, so they don't camouflage themselves with the background. So now we can see it, so I'll remove the debug paint, color here, border. Actually, okay, so let's do the border radius first. So border radius, this is basically pseudocode, right? So it won't work this way. So border radius dot circular, and let's give it a k default border radius. Control S, now you should get this curved corners. Uh, Now with border, there's a very faint border which I actually forgot about it. So since I've done it before, so okay, let's implement it. Border.all. This is a good way to see how to add borders to a container. So border.all. So that means add a border to all the edges. And let's put a comma at the end. And you can specify a color for this. Color 0x. Let me copy this all then. It's a very faint border on the at the edge. It doesn't matter because UI looks almost the same, so you can get away without it also. Now, where you say child is equal to null, now we're going to specify a particular child here. Now, think of it. Can you see this? It's a vertical arrangement of widgets. Vertical arrangement. What widget do we use? Think about it. So if you want, you can give the answer if someone is, no. There'll be some lag, so you can take your time. You can give it on Discord too, or anyway. So cool. So whenever you have a vertical arrangement of widgets, we use a column widget. So let's do that now. Our container.child will be column, and column will have children. It takes in an array of children. Our first child is a text that displays the time. You remember the time? So let's do this text widget that displays weather.text, which is basically a weather object that's passed to us, and then we'll do not text, looks like it's time. Yeah, there's a mistake there. Time. And for the style, as always, you've done it so many times now. Google Fonts dot Donato. So it looks like if I give font size 16, let's do that 16.0. And if you as always, all code is commented out, so you can quickly do that if you want. Colors.white, and font weight dot w 500. Control Alt L, so it will be, let's put a comma here, Control Alt L, so you get this beautiful hierarchy. Let's put a comma here too, Control Alt L, so now you get this beautiful hierarchy here. Text, first was text, next is image. Let's hit Control S so you can see it. Text, I mean the text came here. Next next is image. So for the image, you have your image property in the image widget. Let's give it asset image and just weather.image. So all of these images are in terms of image paths. So basically, it will refer to one of these weather states here. Control S. Notice all the weather appear here. Next, we need another text widget for the temperature, right? So weather.temp. Weather.temp and style. Let's style it with looks like Neato 18.2 and white bold. So actually, to save us some time, I can just take this style and copy paste this. And yeah, let me delete duplicate styles here. Control S, and now you have this here. But let us change this to looks like bold. So bold is W700, or you can type in here bold. Anything would work. And then you have to give it 18.2. So some error, we can ignore it for now. 18.0. Now there's this one thing that if you notice, like let me show you in the inspector. All the widgets are sticking to the top, right? They're not centered, right? You see all the widgets are sticking to the top. To center these widgets, very simple, within the column. So I think I forgot to mention this. Oh yes, no, I didn't mention. Okay, so column, main axis alignment. Main axis alignment dot center, comma. Center all the widgets. So Control S. But now it's all centered. Let me show you in the inspector. Right, all of it is centered now. So that's basically our app. There's only one last step now, and then our professional app is done. So you can see how it was fairly easy, right, to build all these cards here. We just had to make the code in one place and all the cards updated very quickly with hot reload. With Control S, you can change all the cards in just one instant. Flutter is pretty amazing, am I right? Right? You can see the benefits of Flutter. Finally, our last to do 7, is to add the box shadow. So it's basically on home screen. So if you want, you can expand this and check it out. Basically on home screen dot, oh sorry, weather card dot weather card. So hold Control and click on it, or if you want to find it out, it's under lib screens, home screens component, weather card, right? So how do you add a shadow to this? Here, just like how Rafael had asked a question previously, we're going to show on how do you add a box shadow. Box shadow is little hard to understand on why it's an array. Basically, you can specify multiple shadows. That's what it means. Now here we have to specify a box shadow, and now Control S. Nothing will happen, or it might give an error. Yeah, you can see some shadow here at the edge. Okay. Now what you have to do is let's give it color. So we used colors.gray 400. Now you have a gray shadow. Now currently it's just like, think about it. Your light, right? You have like let's say your hand. If your light is coming straight at your hand, if there's a wall behind, the shadow will be just behind, like it'll trace your hand on the wall. If you want some offset, you would move the light source at a slight angle, right? So now if I move the light source from below, so the light will hit this way, now your shadow will be, you can see the shadow at the top of the wall, right? So yeah, so it's just like your intuition, right? What you would think on shadows. So you have to do that. To change the position of the light source, you can do something called offset. So this is like from the base, how much you want to offset it by. So on the x-axis, you don't want to offset it at all. In the y-axis, you want to offset it by 4. So 4 basically means in computer science, right? The y-axis, the positive direction is downwards. So when I do 4, you notice the shadow moves downwards. I'll move 40, so you can see it, 40, right? Some error here. Yeah, it's very hard shadows here. Let us blur it, right? Blur it. So it's like as if I remove my specs, right? Just want to blur everything, right? So blur radius, anything would work. Extend pointer would work, and it blurs it off. Now this shadow is way too prominent, so right, it doesn't look good. So let's give it a offset of 4. And I have to think that I can't even see the shadow because I showed you 40 first, so now it doesn't look prominent. But let's see without it. Right? It looks very bland. Let's see with it. Slight punch that's there on the screen. So now, believe it or not, we have completed our app. So this was a professional app that we wanted to do. So we used the layout provided by Mohammed. He posted on dribble.com, and we can use it. So this was just for like educational purposes, so we can use it. And all credits to him for creating the idea of the UI. And that's it. So as usual, at the end of every step, we can save it or not. It doesn't matter because it's the end of the thing. But I will check if there are any comments, if there are any questions in the YouTube comment section. We can feature it on the screen right now. I'll even check on Discord. And yep, this we answered this. And so that's our app. Now, so any questions on the YouTube comment section? Let's have a quick look. So we can show that on the screen. It looks like there are no questions. So yeah, if there are any questions now, also you can put it. Now, the thing is, as I mentioned in the start, this is our last like proper Flutter session. So the week 7 and week 8 is slightly going to be modified, and we might have something more fun, right? Something that's different from our routine of creating Flutter apps. So it's something going to be fun. So this was our last proper Flutter session. So before we kind of wrap the series, it's not completely over. There's still a week 7 and week 8 in some shape or form. A quick, um just to acknowledge the amazing work that's done behind the scenes. So, like, you just see me here, but everyone's working behind the scenes. So, Dalton, who's a DSC lead from Hofstra University, providing amazing work, help behind the scenes by hosting these regular office hours, uh, also helping out during the sessions. Amazing, Dalton. So thanks for all the help. Madhusha and Yudesh. So they usually host, uh, all the advertising content and to get the word out, all the video resources and a lot of stuff done by them behind the scenes. And then of course, whoops, this is a big typo here. This is the amazing Daniel, Danny, as we like to call him. He that's prefers to be called Danny. Again, amazing. Danny and Madhusha, they go by Maverick and Goose. Great partnership there. So it's a great lively community behind the scenes. So just wanted to acknowledge the outstanding work. It's not just me that you see. Uh, and but that yes, that's it for our session and for our series also.
Well, technically, the series is not done yet, right, Rohan? So next week we are getting somebody from Florida to.
Yes.
Yeah. So, oh yeah. By the way, thanks,
Yeah.
Dalton. You put me and Danny both has the same name, but it's okay. We know who we
Yes.
are.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just heard back from the Florida team. We're trying to. They're going to get somebody to interview. So that would be awesome because so a few things we're going to cover. Then sorry, I don't have my my camera open, but I want to explain the importance of the next session. The discussion will be, Rohan, you can pinpoint and ask them what is the future of this technology is going to go. Because here's the thing, you put so much effort into explaining what the series is about, trying to educate all these students and anybody who's interested. But what's the value and what's the industry trends are looking? So that means when you go into the job market, how can you apply and what kind of employees would be looking at this skill set? Especially from working with startups, I see this being a huge asset for any startup company that's out there who's looking to build applications. So yeah, so and then the other part is second part that we were about to cover was the Flutter series. So Rafa is been working on a series with a few others here. I know Dalton, you probably are involved in this as well. And then we'll see where it goes with the momentum that we built already. Stay tuned. It's not the end of it. And we have a few other great events coming up. If you're tuning in tomorrow, okay, so you're going to be tuning in later if you're interested in the Cloud Hero prep event that we have prepared. I know it's late because we had to accommodate everybody's time zone. So yesterday's event was a little early. This one is a little late. Tomorrow, me, Danny, and Kyle is going to be jumping on. We're going to be talking about like the career path and other soft skills, and we're going to bring in other speakers to talk about things other than just tech. There are so many things that go into tech. I think we have some great stories that we'd love to share with you all. And on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be running the Call Hero event. So stay tuned for all that. Now, I got a question here. Mr. Justin asking, why is next week different? So, Rohan, you want to answer that?
Yes. So one of the reason is week 7 and week 8 was mainly 5 days, and so one of the reason is Raphael. So Raphael, he's doing his 5 day session there, which is kind of similar to what we're going to cover. So that's one reason. But the main reason, which is yeah, like I'm, to be honest, bombarded with a lot of schoolwork. Yeah. So it's great that we want to switch things around, and and we thought about it, and we think it'll be great for the series too. So we've done it for 6 weeks. So a nice change.
And yeah, to another point I want to add is for those who don't know, Rohan also did an Android series before this. So here's the thing: we really appreciate the work that you've done, And then I think you set the tone for a lot of us, including ourselves, to figure out and how to present and run a series like this, given what's going on, juggling school work, running a chapter,
Yes.
doing this. So we really appreciate that, and we want to make sure that the rest of the community will notice the work that you've done. Okay, Danny's jumping into. Yeah, Danny, we're just wrapping things up very quickly, but yeah, so stay tuned for that, and that's the other reason. And here's the other thing: we don't expect you to feel like this is a job, right? DSC, development,
Yeah.
it's not a job; it's something you do for fun. And we also want you to make sure that you take care of yourself. Right? We don't want you to get burnt out. So is there anything else we can do? Obviously, we have to collaborate on things. And if any of the audience who's listening in saying, "Oh, I got an idea to run something like this," let us know. I mean, that's how you just Danny, correct me if I'm wrong. Even the John Hennessy session was about, "Hey, I got this idea. What do you think?" And it eventually became a reality, right? So you're muted.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that we rely on. Can y'all hear me? Hello?
I think that was better of a
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So one of the things that is most paramount about the DSC community is that we rely on what y'all are looking to learn, as well as your amazing ideas. So let us know any ideas, suggestions that you may have. We're available on the Discord channel, and we would love to connect with you to host events that you would like to join in the future.
Yeah, I think the best way to think of us as, let's say, if you want to scale something that you experimented with and you want to share with the rest of the world, yeah, we can help you set up. Anyhow, so we're going to kickstart. We're going to be back on Think Outside the Valley in another hour or so with the prep event, the second prep event. Rohan, once again, thank you so much for all the work you've done. Don't get burnt out for next week. Gonna make it nice and light. You're gonna be interviewing with these Flutter developers. We'll market it accordingly, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And then I'll follow up with the rest of you all with the upcoming other events that we have.
Amazing. Thank you.
Rohan, you're amazing. Thank you again.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
Awesome. All right.